Good morning, my friends. How are you all doing this morning? Looks like there's about 66 of you online with me right here. I don't have much to cover today, so bear with me. I wrote it in nice big letters. That it's not as much as it looks like there is. The first thing I want to do before we get into it too deep is talk about the internet connection real quick so you'll understand if it starts going wonky on us. As some of you know, I'm using T-Mobile internet service at the moment, and it's fairly good if you're close to a cell tower, which we're not too far from a cell tower, but we're down in a very deep valley with big hills and trees. So you saw in my other video where I put that antenna on the back end of the building, and that got it, pretty good. But about 10 minutes in or so, it's probably going to go wonky anyway. I don't know what's buffering, but something starts buffering at about 10 minutes. So more than likely you'll see things get out of sync at about that time, and there's not really much I can do about it until I understand what's causing that problem. And right now I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and follow my little script here. The first thing is that we've had one rental retreat visitor since our last talk, and that was Daniel Lipsey. Daniel is an author, by the way. He wrote this book, Appalachian Trial, not Trail, but Trial. And if you are a believer, and if you like a little bit of action adventure and a little bit of mystery and all those kinds of things thrown into one, you'll enjoy this book. I believe it is available on Amazon, though I didn't look. He just told me that. So it says a story of struggle, survival, and God's grace. It's a pretty good book, I can tell you. I didn't read the whole thing yet. I'm not going to lie to you, but I've read that far. So I've read about a little over a third of it. I'm a slow reader though, but it's a good book. I think you'll enjoy it if you go check it out. And you'll see video from Dan's visit down the road. He brought me a couple of instruments. One I was able to work on and fix while he was here. The other one had to stay and go into the hospital. So it's going to be here for a little while. I want to apologize to Eddie Holiday for failing to include his playing segment in the last Shop Talk. I meant to do that, and I was following my script. Problem was I just didn't put it on the script. I had it on the screen, but I forgot to click on it because I didn't have it on the script. So, Eddie, I hope I'll remedy that in this one here, and I do have it on the script down here a little further, and we will get to that little playing segment later, because I do apologize. Eddie, by the way, is a darn good musician. He really is. He was a good picker. He brought me a whole bunch of instruments, and you will see a bunch, and one of them specifically is a really cool video that of the instrument that he brought. You'll see that video down the road. Anyway, there's another common misconception that I wanted to straighten out here. People on video think the shop is much bigger than it is, and it really isn't very big. It's about 20 foot square, roughly. I mean, that's not very big. It's roughly the size of a two-car garage. It might actually be a little bit bigger than 20, but not much, maybe 22 or something like that. So it's about a two-car garage. That's what we're working in here, and I have to be confined with, Caleb in these close quarters. So there's nothing I can do about it. It's just the way it is. I'm sure Caleb enjoys the heck out of it, though. I can't even say that without laughing. Okay, well, yeah, and so to summarize the size of the workshop, I just wanted to tell you what my mom would have said about it, and that is, this workshop is so small you can't cuss a cat without getting hair in your mouth. Okay, moving right along. I wanted to catch up on some other comments that we've had on some of the videos. First of all, I wanted to ask for your help on some of those comments. A lot of the comments come in on the videos, and they are specifically things that I've addressed in Shop Talks. And so if you see those kinds of comments out there, I would very much appreciate it if you would just interject a comment there under their comment that says, I believe that was covered in Shop Talk number 22 or whatever. And, that would be helpful. Or if you don't know the number, you just say, I believe that was covered in a Shop Talk. And the reason I want you to do that is that will start making people aware that there's stuff in these Shop Talks that are worth watching. Because to be quite honest, they aren't nearly watched as much as some of my other videos. So that's just the way it is. So thank you for that, if you will help me with that. The second thing I wanted to tell you here was we had a Moderna, the COVID shot. We had a troll on that also. And he says, you're just believing a lie, it's all made up. And he just went on and just was just really insulting, basically. And I mentioned in the last Shop Talk that I got my second shot. And by the way, I just thought I'd let you know it hasn't affected me at all. But actually, to be truthful, the second shot, I didn't even feel anything. Now, my wife did. She got violently sick the next day. She was sick and laying in bed and really feeling horrible for the whole day. So, that just shows the difference in people. It didn't bother me even the least little bit. I didn't even get a headache. So, but for that troll guy that trolled me on that, I just thought I'd let you know what I told him. I said, you're free to believe what you want, but if I were you, I would talk to my daughter, Lisa. She got the COVID, and she still, and that was months ago, I would say 4 months ago at least, and she still has not fully regained her smell and taste. And her husband had it too. He didn't have as many problems. But I would specifically like that troll to talk to my friend Libby, who lived in Salem, Missouri area. She organized the jam sessions down there. She got COVID and she passed away from COVID. So that troll should talk to her and tell her it's a lie. It's terrible that people are just ignorant like that. And so I told him to grow up and pull his head out of that really, really dark place he's keeping it, and that the air would be much more fresh and clear if he did that. And then I blocked him. So there you go. So in remembrance of Libby. Okay, I've already covered the buffering and the out of sync problems, and that will probably show up again once this buffer fills up. Usually takes about 10 minutes. A lot of the comments came in on the audio part, the volume. I haven't looked yet to see if the volume is okay today, and but I haven't seen any comments that says it's bad. But the audio volume was turned down on part of the microphone settings, and anyway, I turned that all the way to max, and hopefully that will fix the volume problem. The other thing about the general feed to you all is a lot of comments came in about my setup with my antenna, and they were saying, your cable run is far too long, you need to shorten it. Well, you got to do what you got to do. First of all, you got to have the antenna where it can get a signal. And where I can get a signal, I don't have my internet stuff, and I can't put my internet stuff there because it wouldn't go through the rest of the house and farm, etc. So you got to do what you got to do, first of all. And second of all, I just wanted to say, I understand about the cable length and the run, but I did not add any cable to the length of the antenna. It came with a certain amount of cable, and it was all in a kit, and I'm assuming they know how to engineer their own product, and that the length of cable they sent is okay for their equipment. And so that's all I used. I didn't add anything. I didn't lengthen it. So Anyway, it seems to be working really fine for me, so I'm happy with it. The Starlink stat, that was the other comment about that, was that why don't I just get Starlink and quit messing around? Well, I've been on their waiting list since the first time I knew about it, really. And I paid the deposit a couple of months ago at least, and I'm waiting. What's really frustrating about that is that I see people in like North Carolina have gotten it. I saw one just this morning. I saw a video of someone down in Arkansas that got it. And so if they're getting it, we ought to be able to get it, you would think. But I have not been contacted yet, and I cannot find any way to contact them. So if anyone knows how I can actually contact them, let me know. I know how to get to their website, obviously. That doesn't seem to help. By the way, I want to do a shout out to Mark's mother, Ruth, who is 92. So happy birthday. And someone asked if I watch any of my viewers' YouTube channels, and the answer would be yes. Don't ask me specifically which ones, but I do. There are a number of YouTubers that, I would consider them, I don't know, kind of heavily watched channels. A couple of those watch me and I watch them. And then there are, occasions where I'll hear a comment from a particular person or something, and then I'll go to their channel and watch videos there too. And generally I subscribe whenever I do that, by the way. Also, whenever I watch a video, and especially if it's someone that I watch repeatedly, the first thing I do, and it's the truth, I click the like button before I even start watching their video. And many of you have told me you do the very same thing, so I appreciate that. So that is very helpful. Okay, well that's page 1 already, so we're knocking this out. This is a shorter page here. I told you I wrote it really big. Let's see. There were some comments about my Ford 4000, the ignition, electronic ignition problems. And the reason I'm bringing up these specific comments is because multiple comments came in on these things. And there was all kinds of, suggestions as what would be wrong. And a few of them hit on the right answer, and that is that I don't have compression in 2 cylinders. And so basically what you heard running in that video was just 2 cylinders. But the electronic ignition itself, I stand by everything I said in the video. It works perfectly. It's the easiest install you'll ever do. If you've had trouble with points and problems with your gas motor type thing, or an old pickup truck or anything like that still has points and plugs, just take those points out, put in the electronic ignition, you will thank me. It is really very nice. Especially if you stick to the, I can't think of how you pronounce it today, Petronics or something like that. I can't remember the exact names. I'm sure you will know. But Petronics is one of the better electronic ignitions. Okay, and another common comment that I get all the time is, why don't I pay people to do all these extra of work here on the farm? Like, for instance, when I had the water damage at the retreat, I fixed that. The Ford 4000, by the way, which I've got in the shop right now, and I'm ready to start tearing it down to figure out why I don't have compression. And the simple truth is, I'm in the middle of nowhere. This is like a desert when it comes to people to hire for things like that. You can find people that will do the work, but the truth of the matter is, at least 60% of the time, and if not 70% of the time, or maybe more, I haven't been satisfied with the work they've done. It's usually hurry up and screw up, or do it halfway, or that kind of thing. And I've found a few folks that do really good work. Like, I've had some gutter work done, I've had some furnace work done. It's been great. But for the most part, if you don't do it yourself, you'll be sorry you didn't. And so that's why I do most of the work I do. And besides that, I do kind of enjoy doing something different once in a while. And I know how to do almost all of this kind of stuff. I can even charge my own air conditioner if I need to. So that's why I do that. And like I said, there's been multiple comments on that. So that's why I'm addressing these things. Okay, I've already said that we will do a Q&A here shortly. I've got two very quick demos. One of them is just water. This was warm water about 5 minutes before we went live, so it's already been, I don't know how many minutes we've been live. I can't tell. But anyway, it's been a while. And I'm just, this paintbrush is solid glued with Titebond. It's dried hard in there. And this, as a matter of fact, it was laying on my carpet. And when I picked it up, you can see it stuck a piece of carpet there to it. So I'm going to put this in this warm water, and it's not really very warm now. And I'm going to let that set for a few minutes. I just set it off to the side here, and we'll bring that up back in a minute. I just want to show you how quickly Titebond dissolves in water. That's been one of my criticisms. You can't glue things like, violins with Titebond because you can't get them apart with moisture and heat. And Titebond actually comes apart better with moisture and heat than hide glue does. At least more consistently than hide glue does. Some hide glues come apart real easy. Other hide glues, you can't get them apart. So anyway, that's the first demo. The second demo I want to do for you, while that one's kind of cooking there, I'm going to let that sit in there for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. The next one I want to do for you is the old versus the newer sandpapers. Caleb was going through some old stuff over there, and he found some of the old sandpaper that I used to use all the time prior to finding this new stuff. And I thought I'd just show you on camera a demo, and I'll use the 12 string. So here is the 12 string. I have been sanding a lot on this lately, although not as much as I would like, because I have just been crazy busy with all kinds of things. Now, here is the old sandpaper. This is just standard 3M sandpaper. This is prior to their new, this stuff here is called, the new stuff is called No Slip Grip, Lasts Longer. It's got a little bit of, I wouldn't call it a sticky backing, but it's a kind of it's got a little bit of a friction to it or something on the back. So I'm going to use the old stuff first. This is just the standard old 3M sandpaper. Now, hopefully this shows up. And this really shows up mostly on finishes more than it does on just regular wood. But if I sand this is 220 grit. Both pieces are 220. I'm only going to sand it for just a couple of seconds, like you can see here. And even just in that little bit of time, I'm pretty sure it's going to build up. Now, whether you can see it on camera or not might be a different story. But I'm going to lay this over here for just a second out of the way, hopefully. And get something here I can pick this off with. Again, the camera, I can't go close because it won't focus. That's the problem here. This is not a very good demo, I'm sorry. But there's really hard flakes. Maybe I can brush them off and let you see them. What happens with the old sandpaper, I think you can see this. I'm going to brush off the loose stuff. I don't think, you still can't really see it. It's kind of washed out or something. It's just not, it's not really working. You'll just have to take my word for it. There's really hard little pieces of finish stuck all in here, and you can flake them off. They get like little, almost like little sand pebbles, and they stick to the sandpaper. When you do that with this new sandpaper, you can sand the same area, rub it and rub it and rub it and rub it as much as you want. Nothing sticks to that. All you got to do is wipe it on your carpet like that, and it's completely clean again. Completely clean. Maybe that's the way to show this one. Here's the old one. The old one, first of all, it doesn't come clean. And second of all, those little things are still stuck there, which you can't see. I'm sorry. So the demo's a horrible demo, but the point is there's a huge difference between this kind of sandpaper and the old kind. So be sure to get the no slip grip, lasts longer 3M sandpaper. You will thank me, you will bless me, especially if you're sanding some kind of finish or anything like that. So if even like refinishing furniture or anything like that, be sure to get that kind of sandpaper. You will be very much more happy. The glue has been sitting there for just that length of time to show you the glue has already turned white. So I'm pretty sure that if I just bend this now, well, actually, to be truthful, it hasn't completely softened yet. It is starting to get flexible. It has turned white. I could probably take a little wire brush and run it through there now, or my fingers, and get it to clean off. But I'll just let it sit there for a couple more minutes. But that was completely rock hard with glue. So it'll take it a couple more minutes. Okay, now I do have a viewer project that they sent in to us. This one is from Neil Warman. And Neil says he wanted to thank Caleb for the inspiration for his recent zither repair video. It allowed me to take on my own zither project. He's attached some pictures, and I'll show you those pictures here in just a second. Matter of fact, let's just go to that. And I think you can see on the screen there's the zither all in the upper left there. The zither has clamps all over it, and you can see how he's working on it there. And over in the upper right, you can pretty much see the completed project. It looks like he did a really wonderful job on it. And the old farmhouse there, I kind of included that for a couple of reasons. Number one, he said that's the farmhouse where it's been stored for over 100 years. And it's spent its life in that farmhouse, and they were putting new siding on it. But that farmhouse looks so much like the old farmhouse that's here on my farm. And I mean, it really looks a whole lot like it, very, very much like it. And we are restoring our old farmhouse now too, with old antiques and things, and it's going to be another rental retreat once we get her all fixed up. Okay, so thank you, Neil, for sending that project in there. I thought that looked really cool. And he said he used several sets of EJ16s, and he just cut them into, to length and remove the windings and things, and used that to string up the zither. And I'd say that's fine. You do what you got to do with the zither. We actually bought zither strings from a company, I think it was in Germany, for our project, and that was very, very expensive, to be perfectly honest with you. But you got to do what you got to do. We still had to remove some serving from those strings too, though. So, we thought we were going to get by easier by doing it that way, and it turned out we had to do just about as much work. So we spent a lot more money, and it was hard work to boot. Okay. Moving on, I've missed Eddie last time, so here's Eddie and myself playing a little tune here in the shop. This was after we worked on, and I think the guitar he's playing is the one that I did the most work on. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what I did to it, but when you actually do finally get to see the video, you will be amazed, I think.
traveling through this world of woe, and there is no sadness, no toil, no danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother, and she said she'd meet me when I come. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. Hey, Eddie. I'm going there to see my mother, and she said she'd meet me when I come. Well, I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home.
Well, as you can see, it wasn't a perfect performance, especially by me, but that's okay. I keep things real here, you know, and I feel like I'm lucky to be playing at all the way my hands feel these days, so we had a good time, and I will say Eddie's a very good picker, and to add on to that, he said he hadn't picked with anyone since the 1980s is what he said. So he, you know, it's not like we play together all the time or anything. In fact, that was the first take on that song, if I remember correctly. Now, we did work on a couple of other songs. I think we did 2 takes on or something that you may see in some of his videos down the road when we actually get to his segment, and who knows how long that's going to be, unfortunately. So Eddie, keep your shirt on there. It may be a while before we get those videos out, especially with the state of Melissa being almost gone. She's still coming in and out somewhat and working on stuff here, but I don't know how much longer that's going to last. Her business goes live at the end of this month, and as some of you may know or may not know, it is it's kind of like a canoe rental and a campground business. It's on on the Big Piney River, I think is what the river is. And so anyway, it's not far from here. It's only about 15 miles, something like that. Okay, let me see here. Someone, while I was talking about the sandpaper demo, someone said they use a wire brush to clean their sandpaper, and I have done that too. But I guess my point is, with the new sandpaper, you don't need to do anything. You just wipe it on your carpet there or whatever, and it wipes it clean. I mean, it's just completely clean. I like your shirt in the video. Yes, it's simple, but it's complicated, which is the theme of my whole life, pretty much. I can start out with a 5-minute job and turn it into 2.5 hours just like that. No problem at all. It's really easy for me to do that. Let's see. Jerry does rockabilly. Yeah, I've done that and then some. Let's see. The last thing here that I have on my thing before we get to questions and answers was to actually just to mention that the t-shirts have been selling like crazy. Thank you so much for that. You can get t-shirts on the website. My Nashville number system training has also been selling like crazy, so I really do appreciate that as well. Thank you very, very much for that. The training, and I don't want to brag too much because I'm sure, you can't satisfy everybody. I know that, you know that. But of all the things I've ever done, I would say that training is probably the one thing that I have had. Honestly, to this day, I don't remember a negative comment. I mean, everybody has been so complimentary on the training. So if you've been struggling with learning how to play like the mandolin or even the guitar, and this is mostly just chords, you understand. This is not picking lead or anything like that. This is really understanding how chords work and how they relate to one another and the changes. I use the Nashville number system to demonstrate that. So if you've been struggling, I would recommend my training. I really think you'd get something out of it. I actually recommend the mandolin training over the guitar training. The mandolin training goes into much more detail. Of course, you would need a cheap mandolin but once you understand it on the mandolin, you will understand it on your other instruments as well. So, and the mandolin's pretty darn easy. The duct tape shirt, that's the one he likes, I guess, is the one that says, duct tape. It can't fix stupid, but it can muffle the sound. Yeah, I like that one too. There's a question already popping in here, so we might as well get into that segment. Caleb made me a new overlay for this. It's Q&A, as you can see there, and it says, don't forget to put a question mark in the front of your question. And hopefully the questions will scroll up the screen here. But there was a question before we have there. It says, on the sandpaper, do you sand, final finish, and buff when using True Oil? If so, what is the process? Well, yeah, I mean, I do sand it. I mean, they recommend using steel wool, and I do use steel wool some, but the problem with steel wool that I've found is that it's just so messy. It just leaves that steel everywhere, and because I'm doing musical instruments, I'm working on this carpet to keep from scratching them, and then that steel wool falls in the carpet, and it's kind of a hassle. So I have to put down newspaper if I use the steel wool. So mostly I've just been sanding and then putting a final coat on and then just buffing it either by hand or with my buffing wheel. That's really all there is to it. I am definitely no finish expert. And Bruce Robinson says, totally opened up the world for mandolin for me. He's talking about my training. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. Am I taking new instruments yet? Honestly, we're so booked up with instruments, we just can't hardly talk to anybody right now. We are booked. I mean, we have so many instruments in the shop, we don't have any place to set them. No, you need a Rosa mandolin. I don't know what that means, but no, you don't need a Rosa mandolin to learn to play a mandolin. Let's see. I put hidden speakers in all my Mando builds. No, not really, but they are loud mandolins, I will say that. That's the one consistent thing about the ones I build. They are always really loud. And I attribute that to the fact that I actually took apart a 1924 Lloyd Loar Gibson mandolin, and while I had it apart, I measured it in thousands of inches. Now that just happened to be, and you can take this for what it's worth, but it's the truth. It just happened to be one of the loudest Lloyd Loar mandolins you'll ever hear in your life. And because I carve mine to those exact dimensions, mine have been incredibly loud as well. And I attribute it to that and to the way it was carved. And people have said, give me those measurements, and I'm sorry, that's the one thing in my life I don't share is those measurements that I took. And I took them off of my uncle's mandolin, Don Brown, who was my inspiration to even get into bluegrass. And just in his memory, those are just things that I'm keeping between me and him, and that's it. So I don't give those out. And people say, well, you can get those measurements off the internet. Yes, you can. You can get lots of Lloyd Loar measurements off the internet, but you can't get these specific ones, and I'm not giving them out. Sorry. I'll give out almost anything else, though, if you want to know something. Have I ever used 3M silicone rubber-backed sandpaper? Well, I don't know. I don't think so. Not rubber-backed, I don't guess. This new stuff has a kind of a rubbery feel to it, and it's not really that rubbery, but it does have a little bit of a non-slip grip to it. And let's see, what else have we got here? Okay, I don't see any other questions there. Okay, not too many questions. And getting lots of comments, but I don't see too many questions at the moment. You know, I wasn't going to do it, but I think I will go off on a slight rant here while I'm waiting for questions. The rant is about relief. You know, I call it underbow most of the time, and people get on me and say, you should call it relief. Well, okay, fine. Call it what you want. It doesn't matter to me. I call it underbow when it's more than you need. If it's just a teeny tiny amount, I call that relief. So if you were to ask me, how much relief does a guitar need? How much relief does a mandolin need? Well, when you say the word need, my answer is none. And I mean that sincerely. It needs none. And you say, well, everybody puts relief in their guitar necks. Well, fine. I don't have a problem with that if that's what they want to do. But you ask me, how much does it need? And I say it needs none. You know, the reason I say that is math, geometry, physics. They don't lie. They just don't lie. You know, everybody knows, you know, gravity makes things fall. You know, that's just a fact. And, you know, everybody knows 2 + 2 is 5. Okay, I'm kidding. But the distance between 2 points is a straight line. Okay, in my demo last week, you saw how I was showing how when you press down a string down into that underbow, you're actually creating less clearance. Well, you are, no matter how you do that, once you change a straight line to an underbow or a relief situation, every time you press down, the next fret is closer now than it would have been had it been perfectly flat. I don't know what people think they're improving by putting relief in their neck. And actually, it actually makes the action slightly higher in the middle. So if you're to ask me, how much does it need? My answer is none. Now, I know tons and tons and tons and tons of people are going to not like that answer. That's okay. Put relief in there. I don't have a problem with that. But you don't really need relief. What you really need is a good flat fretboard and straight as an arrow. That's what you really need when you say need. Now, let's see if there's some questions here. Yeah, he uses a tack rag to get rid of dust before finishing. I get rid of the dust too. I don't have much problem with dust. That's never been my issue. The clamps I use on the bridges, trying to find that one here. Okay. Are they steel or aluminum? They're aluminum. We do have steel ones also, but here's the ones I use now. This one is a ShopTalk brand, which I always do this backwards on the screen. It just seems weird to me on the camera. Anyway, it's ShopTalk brand is what they are. And this, well, it says made in China on that side. It says ShopTalk on this side. And that's from Grizzly. That's where I got these, but you can get them from StewMac, you can get them from Grizzly, and these are the aluminum ones. Now, you can use the steel ones too, and we do have some steel ones also, and we use them when we need to. The steel ones are the ones I got first because I didn't even know about the aluminum ones at the time. But I mostly use the aluminum. They're just easier to work with. They're a little lighter, but the steel ones work perfectly fine too. Can I adapt auto heart strings for a zither? And the answer is, the truth of it is, we don't deal with that enough to know the full answer, but I would assume you could. You can adapt almost anything, so your word adapt means pretty much you can. But, I don't honestly have a good answer for that because I don't deal with auto harps and zithers enough to really know. And they're scrolling up the screen so fast there, I can't really keep up. How my new meds working? Well, the answer is, it's confusing as heck on the RA, I don't even know how to explain it. I went back for more tests and stuff, and I was expecting that this was going to be the definitive answer. They did a lot more x-rays. And the truth is, it was completely non-conclusive. That's the truth. 20 years ago, when they x-rayed my hips, they said, you have so much arthritis in your hips, it's not funny. I mean, like, it showed up. I was 40 feet across the room, and I could see the arthritis in my hips, and I'm not even trained to look at x-rays. It's how bad it looked. This time, when they did the x-rays, they said they can't even see any arthritis in my hips. Now, my hips still hurt, so I don't know if it was a problem with their x-ray machine. I don't know what the situation is, but so far, really, very little has changed on the arthritis front. I don't even know 100% sure at this point in time in my life if it is 100% sure it's arthritis. Now, the hand doctor, when he took the x-rays, he said, absolutely, you have arthritis in your hands, and he says you have late third stage arthritis in your hands, and he said you've got multiple bone spurs in your hands. That was done at a different place down in Springfield, Missouri. I really am just totally confused at this point. All I know is everything hurts. If I move it, it hurts. That's all I know. What's the easiest strings for beginner? I'm a keyboard player. Well, I don't know if easy strings, I'm not sure that they go hand in hand. I guess if you talk about the very easiest, it would be nylon, but very few people use nylon on a standard acoustic guitar. But, a light or an extra light, if you're just starting out, wouldn't be a bad idea to build up the calluses on your fingers. So light or extra light would be a good idea. If your fingers are really sensitive, then I would go with the extra light. And then work your way back up to either standard lights or mediums or something like that. Could I make a deer antler nut and saddle for a 6-string Martin, and how much? I only build the saddles and nuts for instruments that are in the shop. And the reason is, unlike mandolins, which pretty much have a standard saddle that sits on top of the bridge, pretty much those are standard across the board. Not 100% perfect match on those either, but they're fairly good at matching from one instrument to the other. Unlike that, on the guitars, every single one of them is different. It doesn't matter if you get 10 Martins in a row, every one of them will have a slightly different size saddle, and it just is the way it is. And, so we don't make the saddles and the nuts for any instruments other than just the saddle for the mandolin. That's it. So only if they're in the shop, then we will make a custom one. Doesn't stop you from making your own, though, of course. What do I think of the torrefication process and aging spruce tops and things like that? And the truth of the matter is, I haven't studied it. I don't know enough about it. You know, people come up with all kinds of gimmicks all the time, and they think they've got the new, you know, they got the cat by the tail, and it might be something that's worth it. I don't know, but I'm always skeptical about these kinds of things. Also, most everything you think is brand new, it's already been tried many times when you really start researching it. And you will be surprised how many things, especially on instruments, have been tried, and you think you're the first one that's tried it. But you go back and you look in history, and almost everything you can think of on an instrument has been tried. I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I just use the things that work the best. You know, one good example is that Verzi thing that Lloyd Lohr came up with back in the 20s, where it's on the inside, it's a disc. It's a disc that's not unlike a disc like this. It's probably maybe even a little bigger than this. It hangs down from the top of the guitar and from the top of the mandolin. We've had a few of those in the shop over the years. If that really, it's called a tone producer. If that really did work, it would have caught on and everybody would do it. And those are the kinds of things that are innovations and they're cool and everything. But for the most part, you know, I stick with the standard stuff. We know it works. How much more do you need to improve, you know, some things? You know, you're not going to improve a Stradivari violin too much. You're not going to improve a Martin guitar all that much. I mean, they're very good sounding instruments, you know. I mean, and I don't mean to just choose Martin as the example. I mean, Taylor makes good guitars. Gibson makes great guitars. It depends on the instrument, of course. But, yeah, you understand my point, I think. So I'm not too big into all those experiments. Looking here to see if I see any more questions. I don't see any. Doug says that Orange Wood Guitars makes a Torrified spruce top guitar for $800 that actually sounds fantastic. Yeah, there's lots of guitars that are inexpensive that sound wonderful. Trust me, I see them all the time. That Regal guitar that I just fixed, that you have, you know, it's not out on video yet, but I'm calling it Regal Rec number 2. It turned out to have a wonderful sound, I thought. An update on the 12 string. Well, you kind of saw it there. I'm still sanding on the 12 string. And the problem is, I've mentioned before, we've lost contact with that customer. Because we've lost contact with that customer, I've kind of put this on the back burner. So I'm sorry about the fact that we're not finishing up the video. But the truth is, I've had so many things pulling me in so many directions that I've kind of let that be a second priority at this point. It's not my number one priority at this point. That's just the sad truth. So, no, the answer to did we get in touch with the 12-string customer? No, we have not got a hold of him yet. We don't know what's happened there. How about just blanks for sale on the antler nut and saddle? I've thought about that, but the truth is I can barely keep enough of it in stock for my own use, let alone trying to go out and sell it. You know, it'd be different if the antler was really readily available, but we're always out of it, it seems like, and just barely. It's all by the grace of God, we always seem to have just enough to keep us going, but that's just barely enough most of the time. And the Wechter guitar, I've heard of Wechter guitars, but I don't know too much about them, to be truthful. I'm pretty positive I've heard of them, unless I've got a different one in mind that's spelled similarly. Just looking at questions here. So the question from John is something about how do you know when your guitar needs repair? Well, because he's saying there's a lot of players that are playing visibly damaged guitars. Example would be Willie Nelson. Well, I guess most of the time, most players are concerned about the sound and the playability. And as long as the sound and the playability is there, most people don't care about the rest of it. And I say most people, lots of people are very concerned about the looks of their instrument too. But a lot of folks, the real pickers, if you will, most of them just care about how easy it is to play and how good it sounds. And if either of those two things wane at all, well then put those instruments in the shop. That's generally when they come in the shop. Will I show the package label for the sandpaper or a link to buy it? I'll show the package label. Here it is. And again, I'm trying to get it in the right place on the camera here. And we have it set on manual focus, so I'm trying to get it exactly in the right focus spot there, and hopefully it's big enough you can see it. But that's it right there. It's great sandpaper. It really, really, really is. Lowe's has their version of this that I'm sure is made by 3M. And at least I believe it is, because it's exactly the same. And I don't know, other stores may have it too. I don't know if Menards has their own version or not, but I know Lowe's does. Or Home Depot or some of the others may have it too. Do I watch Ted Woodford videos? I have seen some of his videos, yes. I'm actually subscribed to over 400 channels, believe it or not, and that's the truth. So I watch quite a few YouTube videos in the evenings or the early morning hours. Like when I say early morning, I'm talking like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., that kind of thing. Yeah, Woodford, out of Canada, he's real good. I've noticed a lot of his videos. Peter Bryant Lindsay, Auto Harp, and I Guitar do Wayfaring Stranger. We really like your version. We like to do it slow and melancholy. Yeah, we do it more like an instrumental than we do anything else. At least that's the way it was recorded on our original album. It's more instrumental than it is vocal. We only do the one verse of the song, and I really enjoy playing that tune. It's a lot of fun. Could play it better years ago than I can now, but I still love to try. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left here. See if we can come up with one more good question. How long do I age my wood? The longer the better, I guess. Most of the time when I buy wood, it sits on the shelf for a minimum of a year before I use it. And typically it's already been dried down to the 6% level. So in that year, it kind of acclimates to the shop. So, the longer the better. Some of the woods that I've used have been in the shop for 20 years or longer. And as a matter of fact, what I'm going to call my last hurrah guitar has already been sliced out of rosewood, and that rosewood was a big block of rosewood that someone gave me at least 20 years ago. And so I'm cutting the sides out of that rosewood, and eventually you'll see a build on that last hurrah guitar. But don't hold your breath. It'll be a while, I am sure. I just wish if there was 5 of me, we would all be real busy. Trust me. I promise you we would be. We don't sit, there's not much moss growing under my feet here. Have I ever tried 3M sanding pads along the lines of Scotch-Brite instead of steel wool? the truth is, I don't think so. No, I don't think I have tried that. Might be something to try. How close are we in age? He was born in 53. Well, I was born in 54. November of 54 is when I was born. Okay, I think we're just about ready to wrap it up here. One last question. It says, any thoughts on using ultraviolet light to aid in the aging of woods? Well, I don't know a thing about that for the aging of the woods. I truly don't have a clue about that. But we do have ultraviolet lights that one of my customers and viewers supplied for me, and we do use that to help cure finishes quite often in the shop here. We'll turn it on when we need to speed up the curing process on the finish. And so that's about all I know about ultraviolet light on that. I don't have any idea about aging the wood with it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. And if you would, as I mentioned earlier, help me with the comments by pointing people to the Shop Talks when you know that the subject has been covered in a Shop Talk. I would really appreciate that. What's the starting bid on the 12 string? Well, I'm not giving up on that customer yet. I know that customer was very serious about the instrument. He was looking so forward to it that I'm assuming something rather bad has happened. I really don't know what's happened. We've been trying to find it out, but anyway, I'm not going to give out his name at this point because I don't want to stir up a big mess. But at some point, I may have to do that, and we may have to do a worldwide search here and see what's going on. Thank you all so much for tuning in this morning. Tell your friends. I would really appreciate it. And if you would do me one favor, click that thumbs up.